Something strange and unexpected is happening with New World. It's gaining players. Is the game good now, you may ask? Or maybe people are just desperate and they are trying New World again. Maybe enough has changed. I honestly think New World is already good enough to be a time sink for some people. Not a serious one, but at least a time sink. But let's find out what is actually happening.
Friends, today we are going to talk about the current state of New World and also the latest big update which just came to the game, which is Season 2 Blood of the Sands. A bunch of people often ask, like, how is New World these days and is it worth jumping back into the game?
No.
Like what is going on right now in New World? So in today's video, we're going to cover what Season 2 is, how the current state of the game is, and what to look forward to in the future, and whether now is the right time to get back into New World. Now, one thing
New World, if you want to play New World, it is for some very, very specific people. New World is great for a specific group of people, but this group is not that large, honestly. So, if you want to try out New World, be warned.
Quickly want to cover is, I mentioned that this is Season 2. Some people have a little bit of confusion when I say a season in New World because of Diablo 4, another game similar. We associate a season with being like a character level reset. That's not the case in New World. A season in New World is basically just one big update where they just chuck a whole bunch of content together and patch the game with it. With Season 2, some of the biggest pieces of content that we have coming into the game are raid groups, so you're now going to be able to group up with up to 20 players. Previously it was just 5, and to support raid groups, we have a raid boss of sorts here, which is the Sandworm. Now, it's not a raid in a true sense, like when you think about some...
The new boss that literally crashed the servers because the average server capacity in the zone is 3 people. Oh boy, was that something great.
Like World of Warcraft, you'll have multiple different bosses with several different encounters and a bunch of trash sort of in between each boss room. The Sandworm is just one boss, but it's still probably the coolest fight that we have in New World so far, and it's looking like it's probably going to be quite challenging with all the buffs that they've done from test server to it coming to life. There are some okay rewards you can get from the Sandworm. Some of it is surprisingly not that great, which considering...
An actual tab that shows you rewards? This is the biggest improvement New World has ever had. Next you're gonna tell me it has a mini-map now, which is like a thing that people have literally been begging since the game has released, but the devs are stupid, so they say, no mini-map for anyone, and you need to download an add-on. And since banning that add-on would be like banning 99% of the player base, aka roughly like 4 people out of 5, they're not doing it. It is insane. And there is no way to actually check. Have you actually found all of the dungeons, by the way? There's no way to check if you have found all of the in-game stuff, or what drops actually anything. So the fact that you can see the worms drops in-game is amazing. This is like the biggest quality of... Well, it's the first quality of life update ever in New World. This is amazing.
This is the hardest, or it's supposed to be the hardest boss fight in the game. You would have thought they would have made the rewards like super good, but nonetheless, this is probably one of the biggest pieces of content that we have in Season 2. Along with the Sandworm raid, which is a 20-person boss encounter, we also have the hatchery as well, which is a 10-person encounter. Now, this one only lasts for the duration of the season, which is a bit weird. I think Amazon needs to be focusing on evergreen content that is always going to be relevant rather than doing a boss fight that only lasts for the season, as I feel like one of the biggest problems with the game is just we don't have enough content, and again, focusing on content only lasts for a brief amount of time doesn't seem like a wise use of development time, in my opinion. Anyway, the hatchery, compared to the Sandworm's supposed to be really difficult, one of the highest end pieces of content in the game, where the hatchery is probably quite a bit more casual, and you could just make a pug group and probably complete this, provided people knew the mechanics. You effectively have a few waves of enemies, and then you have the boss fight at the end, and the rewards are okay. There is some decent pieces in here, but generally not like insanely good stuff. But most importantly,
you could also see a raid's rewards now? That's insanity. Wow. It only took New World like 5 years to figure that this is kind of like basic stuff that needs to be put in the game. Amazing.
There's another piece of endgame content, and it's something that you can do with the new raid groups. And the final piece of content that we have that kind of supports raid groups, although you technically don't need to be in a raid group, is the Siege of Sulphur event. Now, I believe this is going to be in at the start of Season 2. Spoilers, as I'm recording this, Season 2 hasn't actually officially begun. But the Siege of Sulphur basically has 10 people interact with the mage here, and then angry earth mobs spawn, they come at the eggs, and you have to try and defend them with your group of players. this. Because this is an open world event, you can kind of bring as many people as you want, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a group of 10. It could be a group of, 50. You could have 5 raid groups.
So it doesn't scale?
Have like several groups of 5 players. But it's a slightly different take.
Whoa. A group of 50? That is definitely crashing the servers. Like, 50 people in one location in New World? That's unheard of. You're literally trying to destroy the servers right there, dude. Stop.
On some open world content that we haven't particularly seen in New World before, and the rewards for this event are going to be pretty good as well. Outside of the Sandworm, Hatchery, and Siege of Sulfur, raid groups will also just work for open world content in general, so if you want to form a raid group for doing a chest run, or some open world cool PvP, you can do it for that as well. And speaking of PvP, Season 2 does have some changes for PvP players as well, so first things first.
Yes, the content that is very alive and enjoyed by, like, I don't know, 2 people maybe?
We are getting cross-server Outpost Rush, which is a pretty big deal. So you will be able to play Outpost Rush with players from other servers, provided they're still in the same region. This should open up matchmaking. Well, there's not really matchmaking in Outpost Rush, but it should allow you to find games faster and hopefully give you more varied type of opponents rather than just playing against the same 40 people over and over again. There's also going to be a new 3v3 arena map as well. This will not be cross.
He knows. He understands what's happening. He understands it's the same people.
Server queue, but will be in the future, but however, maybe not until winter. They're also adding 2 times daily rewards for 3v3 Arena, which is going to make it a little bit more appealing because right now it's just way better to do Outpost Rush for the Outpost Rush box of loot. They're also making some pretty good improvements to the PvP reward track as well, so you're going to be able to get like decent pieces of gear more often. Right now, the reward track is honestly like pretty underwhelming, but it is going to be quite a bit better in Season 2.
That's pretty much the story of New World in general. You kind of expect good things, but it's kind of underwhelming most of the time. Pretty accurate.
The main updates that are coming with Season 2 are the Season Pass. So this is basically just the Battle Pass. There is a free and paid version of it. In my opinion, if you are a new or returning player, there's some pretty good stuff you can pick up in here in both the free and premium version of it. The premium version, for those interested, looks like it's going to cost about $20, so you can pay $30 for like some bonus levels to start with.
Don't do that.
Some people ask, is the Season Pass pay to win? In my opinion, no, but that is under the perspective that I've been playing the game for thousands of hours. If you and another player were to start at the same time and your friend bought the Season Pass and you didn't, your friend would probably progress a little bit faster than you because of some of the booster tokens you can get in here, and they might occasionally get a better piece of gear than what you have available just as drops as well. So, again, if the Season Pass was to release at the start of New World, like right at the beginning, I would say it's probably pay to win because you can get to endgame faster and start taking territories faster, and maybe occasionally you get a good piece of gear. But generally, the Season Pass, I don't know, the rewards are kind of underwhelming in terms of the pieces of gear for like true endgame best in slot. It's very rare that you're going to find anything good. Interestingly, though, they do have these transmog tokens. So this is currently the only way that we can see on the PTR as a way to get transmog tokens, which is another feature that's going to be coming in Season 2. However, not until about halfway through Season 2, just to make things a little bit confusing. Transmog is basically the ability to take any weapon or armor in the game and use it as a skin. So to my understanding, you will open up your inventory, you have a piece of armor that you like. Let's say I like this helmet. I'll be able to click here, use transmog token, and then it will add it to my skin inventory. Again, this is speculation on how it's going to work. I don't know for sure. But effectively, if there's any cool pieces of loot that you get in the game, you like them visually, but the stats just don't line up, now you can wear it as a skin with the transmog system. Along with the Season Pass, there's also a seasonal storyline. The season storyline's pretty fun. There's some interesting voice acting and a few little cutscenes here and there. Also, the rewards from the seasonal storyline are pretty good, so I generally recommend that you go in and check.
219 unclaimed territory. Why? Territories are probably the best part of the game, honestly. It's the most fun, even though it makes literally no sense and it's stupid. But it's still probably the best part of the game. Why are you not clicking on these?
Check that out. In Season 2, we're also going to see the return of the Summer Medley Fair event. For those of you interested in fishing or musical instruments or just generally enjoy the more casual vibe of the game, the Summer Medley Fair event is pretty fun, and it also has some cool music to go along with it as well. And the rewards, last time we got some really good crafting patterns from the Medley Fair, so probably going to be another one that's worthwhile taking part in as well. And then lastly, the other big piece of content that we have arriving in Season 2 is the removal of First Light. Now, I am aware that saying the removal of a zone as a piece of content content is kind of like, that's a bit silly to say that. However, this is, I don't know, I'm excited for this. This might be the most exciting thing, even though it's not even really a new piece of content. It's a retraction of content. But it sounds cool in that. I am excited.
Bruh, imagine when you have removed more content from the game when you have added. Wow.
Excited to see what's behind the wall. We're not going to get to see what's behind there and the new zone that is going to be replacing First Light until Season 3. But I thought it was worth mentioning as it's like, you know, it's a hype piece of content that gets us excited for the future of the game as well. First Light is going to become seemingly some sort of angrier jungle forest area, probably with new resources and a bunch of other cool stuff as well.
Looks like
But that's not until the expansion, which is in October, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So that covers all the big major stuff coming with the Season 2 update. However, how is the overall state of New World? How is the game this day compared to release and, you know, the general progression of the game since then? Well, in my opinion, the game is probably in the best state it's ever been in terms of like actual content and quality of life. Leveling is much faster, more fun. The quests are more varied. Endgame progression is easier than it was in the past. We now have the gypsum system, which you can use.
Wait, what do you mean the quests are more Has this guy even played New World? The quests are more. What are you? What kind of copium you? Okay, that's a lie. New World quests are 3 times less varied than World of Warcraft's collect 10 bear asses and find 4 zebra hoofs. There's literally only 2 quests in New World. Kill X amount and then go kill boss X amount. Kill X amount and get quest drops X amount. There's only literally 2 types of quests in this game, pretty much, honestly. 99% of the quest content is kill X mobs to receive X drops. That's it. That's it. There is literally no other quest content in this game.
To sort of custom target particular items and increase the expertise, which used to be known as Watermark back in the day. There's also some nice quality of life features, including Dungeon Finder, although we won't really get to see it here on the test server, but there is a group finder function.
Imagine an actual functional group finder. Oh, wow. Imagine not having to make a group that's gonna disband after 3 minutes because there's only 2 people. That's, bruh. I actually never complained about this, the fact that New World, in 50 trillion years of existence in Amazon time, has literally not even made a group finder. Grouping is so stupid.
Functionality to find other players to play with. Along with this, we also have a significantly reduced fast travel cost as well. Again, we're going back to the release of the game here, but it used to be like 500, 600 Azoth to move around the map, and Azoth was a real pain in the butt to get to, so you basically just had to run everywhere. Now there's tons of fast travel.
Now you're pretty much always capped, by the way, on Azoth. Like, fast travel shouldn't be a real problem.
Shrines, you can see like one here, one here, one here, so wherever you want to go, there's a fast travel shrine, usually within a couple 100 meters of it. They also have some other nice quality of life features like gear sets, so these effectively work like loadouts where you can equip. Right now I can switch between DPS and healing.
This is new.
Button, you equip different sets of jewelry, armor, weapons, depending on whatever you put in there.
Wow, this is an update that came probably like less than 4 months ago, because this is when I quit playing New World because I got bored.
One thing this doesn't do sadly yet is your weapon mastery. It doesn't change weapon mastery and it doesn't change attributes, but still it is a pretty nice feature. Some other really big updates that we've had in terms of quality of life since release is connected storage sheds. So you can now access any storage shed from any other storage shed on the map. So if you need something in Windsward, you can just pull it out, and then if you want to pull something from Windsward.
Yeah, and this is the stupidest system ever, because there's no way to search what's actually in each of them, okay? The search button doesn't really work like you would imagine. It just does nothing.
Everfall or somewhere else, you can do that as well. It used to be that back in the day, you would have to effectively run to the storage shed, or you could pull it out, but it would cost you quite a lot, and you could only do that if the faction owned both territories and you were the same faction as well. So yeah, removing a lot of the restrictions that...
That's a super old thing, by the way.
Just like made the game more difficult to play. Those are kind of gone. You can also open the inventory on the move. Again, the game is just generally a whole lot nicer to play now than release, and it's a shame if we had these features at release. I think the game would be doing way better in terms of playing.
This guy just loves New World. There's a lot of cope. Believe it or not, there is a lot of cope in that. Like, the game is still only appealing to a very, very, very minor specific group of players, and that wasn't Amazon's intent, okay? The game is just far too niche for a mass appeal.
Numbers, but it is what it is. Now that's the good stuff and the improvements for the game. However, the negatives for New World, in my opinion, crafting in the game is still very tedious and like has such a huge setup to it, and that you need to have a full set of crafting armor. You also need to have the earring with the relevant perk. Then you need to eat the crafting food that gives you the relevant perk. You also need to have 3 different...
I didn't know that. Huh. Wow, I had no idea those things even existed. You know why? Because there's no way to figure out these things exist unless you wiki or something, okay?
Houses as well, and put down a major trophy of the relevant craft, so 3 major armoring trophies in 3 different houses. You also have to hope that the people who own the settlement that you have a house in have set up the corresponding buff for the thing that you want to craft, like armor's inspiration. Luckily, on the PTR, we have every single buff available, but sadly, this is not the case on the live servers. After you've got your armor, your earring...
I had no idea that exists. Dude, I'm actually... I'm not doing end game activities. I have never killed any sandworm more with it. But I had no idea half this garbage existed. Like, this guy who literally just told me about 3 new mechanics that I had no idea about. Like, settlement inspiration buffs? There's equipment with crafting things and food buff equipment? What? I had no clue.
Your food, your trophies down, the buff. You also need to make sure that you have the legendary or relevant materials to make the item, and the timeless shards and the golden scarab. And then you can find...
I thought he's just talking about the fact that getting enough levels to level up your crafting is kind of a little bit tedious. It's fun because, you know, I like chopping down wood and whatnot. I like mining, honestly. But... it is a bit... I can see how people who are not that much fans of that would find it very tedious, because you need a lot of it. You need a lot of it to level it up.
Finally craft, provided you've also got the trade skill all the way to 200 as well. However, it's then not guaranteed that you will get a good item. There is a lot of RNG when it comes to crafting, so all of it, like, I just feel like crafting is frustrating a lot of the time, and it's often just like throwing away tons and tons of gold. And, you know, somebody next to you could craft the same item and they could get exactly what they want, and it's just down to luck, effectively. Now, I'm aware that suggesting, you know, being able to guarantee craft a good item is going to sort of break endgame progression, but I just wish there was some sort of system that if you really put in the time and effort, like if you went around and killed every single dungeon boss, or you killed the sandworm like several times and you got some sandworm scales, that you could guarantee craft a good item, provided that you put in the time and work. Whereas right now, you could get it in 1 attempt, or you could get it in 500 attempts. It is most of New World's endgame progression is just RNG, and it doesn't really reward skill too much, or not even necessarily skill. Just.
I don't think that's a good. I don't think that's a good thing to complain about, because if you would just, if there's a guaranteed way to get these things as rewards, so many people would just get bored of the game so fast. Okay, that's just how it is. If there is no RNG involved in these things, and maybe this is too much RNG to be fair, you usually want this RNG. You don't want everything to be predeterministic. You may think that you want that, but do you think not a single gaming company that's doing MMORPGs has ever thought of that? Of course they have, but yet no one's doing it. And the people who have done it usually are out of business pretty soon, because that's a good way to make your player base very, very bored very, very fast. When there's no anticipation of anything, because you can literally just calculate the hours spot on, minutes into seconds, when you're gonna be finishing the game, that takes a lot out of it, okay?
Time commitment. Another aspect that's not great about New World, and this isn't necessarily the game's fault, but the end game is quite gate-kept. There is a lot of gatekeepers when it comes to...
I have complained about this. Currently, the all 90% of the New World player base is a bunch of people who have played this game from start to finish, and they hate you. If you're a new player, they hate you. They don't want you here. They honestly would they would much rather be happy that you abandon the game than actually new players come in. If you get grouped into a dungeon, with someone who's like that, and you're a bunch of new people, that person is gonna call you bad, call you shit, do all of these toxic things. And when you ask them, hey, maybe you could just tell us what we're doing incorrectly so we can actually do this properly and not waste time, as you say, they're not gonna do it. They're just gonna ignore that. They want you to quit the game. Old players of New World, literally the majority of them, the vast majority, want you to not play the game because they hate you. It's insanity. It is probably one of the strongest gate-kept games in gaming in general.
Running mutated expeditions, you need to make sure you have a full set of Bane gear. So we're talking like Corrupted Bane, or Human Bane, or Beast Bane, or Angry Earth Bane, or Lost Bane. That's also another problem, as well as all the different sets of gear. And the Ward, is the corresponding. So Ward on your armor, and then Bane on your weapon. And you need to have a different type depending on which dungeon you're going into. You also need to change your gems over as well, if it's a fire mutation, or a frost mutation, or a nature mutation. There is just a lot of different hoops that you have to jump through just to be able to take part in the end game. And the same can also be said of PvP, where you need Resilient and the relevant skill perks. Wars, which are the ultimate endgame PvP content, also are quite gatekept in that there's only a limited number of slots, so company leaders are only going to take players that they're familiar with and know are going to perform well. And in general, trying to get gear for PvP and PvE isn't really straightforward. You have to go and craft it, or buy it off of another player, or like farm endlessly over and over again in hopes that you finally get the drop that you want. There isn't that many straightforward paths of progression where it's like, hey, if I go do this quest or kill this mob, I know that I will get a good item for this piece of content. There are a few examples of that in New World, but they are few and far between. Now, one of the things that is worth mentioning, and sort of will put a perspective on this whole video, is Season 3. We talked about it a little bit when we said that First Light is being removed and replaced with a new zone in Season 3, but Season 3 looks like it's also going to have some other major shakeups to the game as well. First of all, Amazon is labeling Season 3 as an expansion. This is the first time that they've labeled a piece of content as an expansion. Whether this means you'll have to pay...
If it's not free, I'm not going to play it. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to play it. If it's not free, I'm just not touching it.
An additional fee to be able to unlock this content is not clear yet. My suspicion is that they probably won't charge for it because, again, a lot of people already own a copy of New World, and they just simply need to get those people to reinstall the game and try it again, and they're less likely to do that if they charge them for it. But still remains to be seen as to whether we'll pay for the expansion. But in Season 3, there is going to be a soft gear reset. So they've said that the current existing gear that you have right now, your best in slot gear, which is the current highest ceiling is 625, this is going to be increasing to 650, maybe even 700. However,
it's an expansion, it makes sense.
The 625 gear that you have right now will not be upgradable to the next gear score ceiling. You're probably going to have to farm out new sets of items. And only items that drop after Season 3 will be upgradable to the new Gear Score Max. So it's not as if we're going to be losing our existing stuff, but you will be replacing it. And this kind of disincentivizes a lot of players to play Season 2 because they feel like, well, what's the point? If any gear that I get now is just going to be...
the classic Nox release problem. What a time to be alive.
Placed in Season 3, why should I even try? And in my opinion, well, it's just like, if you want to play the game for the next 3 months, if you want to enjoy any of the content that I've talked about coming up in Season 2, you will still need to have the current and appropriate gear for that, but that is something to bear in mind. Season 3 is likely also going to see the removal of Ward and Bane as well. We talked about it briefly, but the need to have Beast Ward or Lost Ward or Corrupted Ward or Angry Earth Ward, all of the different wards and the...
You need every ward, essentially, he's saying.
Bane for the relevant type of content. Amazon decided that it's not like particularly that fun, so they're going to be removing these perks from the game. And again, I do think that's going to sort of coincide with Season 3. So if you're looking for almost like a clean reset and a way to get back into the game, Season 3 does seem to be where it's going to happen with the expansion. But to bring it back to the beginning of this video, is Season 2 worth jumping in, checking out? Absolutely, yeah. I think the game is much better now than it has been in the past. If you just want to get familiar with new...
That is true, but then again, not a lot. He loves the game, and it's a bit... There's cope. There is a lot of cope in what he's saying. Yes, the game is technically better. The game is actually better. But if you really disliked New World when you first started playing it, you won't see enough changes to think that it's not bad. You know, you need to be a specific kind of player to enjoy New World. Okay?
New World and sort of kind of prepare the character, at least in terms of how much gold that you have and maybe crafting materials, because
That's a lot of
those
gold.
will probably carry over into the expansion.
How do you... Well, you get gold through everything, I guess. Wow.
You could do that. Also, the game is...
Suddenly I understand why I see people in trade chat selling, like, items for 10k each. Okay, this explains something.
60% off right now as well. This is not a sponsored video, but you can get New World at a very discount price. I believe 60% off. That's the cheapest we've ever seen the game on sale. So if nothing else, just to buy a copy of New World now and then, you know, play it when Season 3 comes out, that might be a good value proposition, provided you don't have to pay for the expansion when that does arrive.
No shot. They know that people are not gonna be like, oh, New World has a new expansion. Oh, it costs money. Oh, well, nah. I think it's suicide, honestly, if they will ask money for the expansion. It's just, the game is literally played by 5 people. It's obviously an over-exaggeration in this situation saying that, but the game is not played by a lot of people, okay? The game is played by very, very little people. So, I don't think asking money is a reasonable thing if you want to increase your player base.
Right. So I think this is probably a pretty good point to wrap up the video. Hopefully you guys found it useful to learn about the current state of New World. Again, I do want to reiterate, the game is much better now than it was at release. It's much more stable, there's far less bugs. The quality of life with the gear sets...
Have they finally finished the main quest storyline? When I was playing 4 months ago, the main quest storyline was bugged for a month or something like that. People were constantly complaining about it. It's just, how do you do that? How do you not fix a literal hard lock bug that doesn't allow you to progress through the story for a month? How do you do that?
With the inventory and the move, with the shared storage. Also, one other feature that I didn't talk about is the ability to search by perk as well, so you can search for refreshing in your inventory. I'll show you everything with the refreshing perk. Again, some really nice stuff in the game, and it does look like...
Again, for example, Diablo 4, currently people are complaining about these search options right now, and the game hasn't been out technically for more than a month. Well, the game hasn't been out even for 2 months, people are already complaining about it, and it's gonna happen pretty soon, search options. New World, out for literally multiple years, 5 years or something plus at this point, right? And you only get a search option like this now. That is insanity. That is insanity.
Like, partially Season 2 with cross-server queuing and all the other stuff is a setup. It's adding some good stuff in the game for what it...
It's nice to see, though, that people like him are very happy about the game, you know, that stuff is changing. Even though, again, he's looking at this with rose-tinted goggles for sure. Like, there's no question about it. If the game was as good as he absolutely 100% thinks, and by the way, he has all the right to think that, if the game was even 50% as good as he currently thinks it is, it would not struggle this much, okay? It would actually have a lot of players, and you would see them constantly and all of that good stuff. But yeah, well, at least people are enjoying the game. Again, the game's super awesome if you're that small group of people currently. It could be good if it got increased and made better for other people also. But yeah, you know, with time, maybe we will actually get it. You know, it only takes just one really, really good expansion. Admittedly, they need combat overhaul. I don't think New World will ever be appealing to the mass public without a combat overhaul. Because the main problem with New World is hitting stuff either feels super good because you're killing it in 2 hits, or super bad because it takes too long. And attacks are clunky. I think at the bare minimum, every single attack animation and attack should be made 30% faster. That you attack 30% faster just on everything. By default. Literally by default. 30% faster attack. And then it would be much more appealing because sometimes it just feels sluggish. But anyway, that's pretty much that, I guess. And this was... Oh, he doesn't have an ending screen. Wow. Well, in any case, that was Baggins TV. Good stuff. Good stuff. Fun stuff. It is what it is. Anyway, this was Quizzer said. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. And have a nice day. Bye-bye.